How did you first get into the business valuation profession?
Well, I took the long route. I started, as most CPAs do, in a CPA firm, preparing financial statements, performing audits, doing tax returns. And in 1980, I discovered that most of the clients I was servicing really were more interested in taxes than the financial statements. So I began studying taxes at a local law school and got a wonderful education, and then devoted my career specifically to taxes, mostly dealing with substantive issues and actually running tax departments. Then about 1994, paying attention to what Congress was doing and so forth and what the marketplace was doing, I determined that taxation as a career, at least with within the CPA firm environment, was really going more towards compliance than it was towards dealing with substantive issues. So I look back on my career over the years and determined that I really enjoyed doing litigation, the analytics involved there, the analytics involved with business valuation, and decided to start studying business valuation, which I did in 1994. I went to courses given by the Illinois Society of CPAs for 10 days, I believe it was, and finally finished that group of courses in 1998. But there was no designations at that point in time. The only thing I got was a Certificate of Educational Achievement. So I contacted NACVA and they said, we'll accept those credits, but you do need to take one course in report writing, which is what I did, and I got my CVA in 1998 and then answered an ad in the newspaper and got my first job in the litigation and the forensic area.
How has the business valuation profession changed since you first became involved?
It's changed dramatically. My first case was actually 1976, I believe it was. It was a lost profits case for the defense. And the plaintiff's experts, the loss was in the month of February, so the plaintiff's experts simply took the previous 5 Februaries, averaged the net income, measured that against the actual net income that was in the year of the loss, and that was the lost profit. So it was really basic. I did a lot of analytics and fortunately won the case showing there was no lost profits. But what's transpired over the years is this change from simple arithmetic, for lack of a better word, to the use of analytics, statistics, regression analysis, and so forth. And I think it really improves both business valuation and financial forensics. The math has gotten complicated only because we, as accountants, typically don't spend that much time on math. A joke, I was reading a fellow's report not too long ago, and he used an average, and I said, why did you use the average instead of the median? And he said, what's the problem? I said, look at the standard deviation. And he said, what the hell is a standard deviation? So that's where we're headed towards more sophisticated analytics. And I'm glad of it because it really helps the service.
So many of our colleagues, look to you as their go-to person for guidance on challenging projects and challenging professional issues. Did you have a go-to person during the early years of your career who you could look to for guidance?
Actually, I did. I had several. As indicated earlier, I actually had about 3 careers. And in my first career in the traditional accounting and auditing, I had a fellow named Joe Osterly. And Joe was a fantastic accountant and just gave me all kinds of feedback. We worked together on computer projects, which back in the day was really not PCs. It was old mainframes and minis and micros and all that kind of thing. As I progressed into taxes, I went to law school and made relationships with some of the teachers at law school, one of which was a fellow named Jim Fee, who at the time was head of the appeals department in Philadelphia. Also, I was an adjunct from 72 to 82 at Villanova University, and several of my fellow adjuncts, about 3 if I recall correctly, were IRS agents. So we developed a close personal relationship over the years. So those were my relationships with the folks from IRS. that I really relied on for taxes. When it came to business valuation, I had a really interesting case in, I guess it was about 2000, with the IRS. And it was a $4 million case, it was a valuation of personal goodwill. IRS wanted tax on $4 million. I said the goodwill had no value. And I had 3 or 4 meetings with the senior valuation guy in Philadelphia, a fellow named Paul Elkins. And as a result of that, we had very good give and take, and we both respected each other professionally, and we became good friends. Paul and I have presented seminars to the Pennsylvania Institute of CPAs when the IRS came out with their guidelines, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to really technical valuation issues. And likewise, he comes to me if the service is looking for a particular valuation expertise. I'll use my network and solicit my network if they would be interested in working with the service, and that has happened on a couple of occasions. So those are the main people that I look to in my careers.
You have had a very active role in the development and presentation of very, very relevant and timely educational programs. You are a creator and presenter of our programs in business valuation and litigation, report writing and litigation, and a number of others. Your trademark, however, has been as executive editor of the National Litigation Consultants Review, guiding the work from being one of a number of publications in financial forensics to becoming a refereed academic journal. Tell us about when it was that you decided that it was time to move the NLCR into this direction, and how you went about making your vision a reality.
Well, I really appreciate the NLCR, and as a matter of fact, it was the first time that I met Tom Porter on the telephone in 2003 when I joined the editorial advisory board of the NLCR. And it was just a fantastic experience. I mean, you're on the phone every month with people like Tom Porter, Nancy Fannin, Larry Maston. It just was a great publication. And I wrote numerous articles for the publication over the years. In 2010, I was teaching, and still am teaching, in the graduate school at Rider University in New Jersey, teaching the business valuation course in the graduate department. And they mentioned to me, they said, you know, it would be really helpful to their accreditation if I could get the NLCR to be accredited as an academic journal. And of course I said, well, how do you do that? And they gave me the website for Cabell's directory. So I followed through and followed up with Cabell's, explained what the publication was about, explained how we go about editing it, how we peer review, and so forth. And so it became an academic journal. The really neat thing about it is that it now made the NLCR attractive to academics. We had a recent article about the ACA and litigation, and the article was by a PhD in economics. And his hypothesis was, does it make a difference in personal injury litigation if the person was injured but didn't have the required insurance under the ACA? What impact would that have on the damage model? And of course he discussed the other side, was that the person that caused the injury should have to pay regardless of insurance. I got a call from him a couple of weeks ago, and he is presenting that subject matter at the defense attorneys conference, and indicated that he'd be using the article in his presentation and would be acknowledging the contribution that the NLCR has made to the article. So it's really quite thrilling to take this publication so that it's developing respect within the academic community. And Mark Felton is really a moving force behind getting the academics to write for the publication. Mark is an academic, and he's provided many sources for these articles. And currently I'm looking for a PhD to join the editorial advisory board, if you know of any.
Who is the one person who has had the greatest impact upon how you have guided your life, both your professional life and your personal life?
I think professionally it goes back to Joe Osterly, who I mentioned earlier. I remember vividly when I got the letter that said I passed the CPA test. I sort of ran into Joe's office with waving the letter in my hand, and I waved and said, "Joe, I'm a CPA," and he slowly raised his head from his desk and looked over his glasses. He said, "No, you're not. You just have a license to become a CPA." And that stuck with me through my entire career, in that my career is continually becoming. You're never there. You're continually growing, you're continually evolving, and that goes on during your entire career. I run into so many folks, professionals, I've got my CVA, now I can do business valuations. Well, yes, maybe you can do a business valuation, but will you become a valuation analyst? So it's that whole concept that Joe gave me that I've really looked at throughout my entire career of becoming. You're not doing something, you're becoming something during your career. I think personally it was my mom and dad. My mom and dad were really great people, hardworking people. I know my work ethic was from my dad. He would do anything for the family. Mom was great because she would support all kinds of things I wanted to try. I started a men's bowling group when I was 15. I started a youth group when I was about 18. And she was always behind that. Don't be afraid to reach out and to attempt new things. So those were the major driving forces in my career, in my life. Absolutely love learning. I spend probably an hour or two, maybe more a day, just reading about my profession, reading about the tools, the techniques, and so forth. And this becoming thing is just very exciting because your life is always changing. And that makes for an exciting life. The old Chinese proverb, I guess.
Please tell us about your family, which I know is a very important part of your life.
Yeah, actually I have several families. I have 2 daughters, 3 grandkids, and an ex-wife. And Jean and I are together now. We've been together since 2013. Jean has 5 kids, 8 grandkids, and 1 on the way. So together we have just this group of people that we love. Together 7 kids, 11 grandkids, and 1 on the way. We're devoted to the kids. My ex-wife and I are great friends. We spend a lot of time together with the family during holidays and special occasions. And it's just really great. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to spend time with the grandkids and watch them grow, watch them develop. When Jean and I first got together in 2003, I guess it was, there was 1 grandkid, which was my grandson, and now we're up to 11 and 1 on the way. It's just magnificent.
Most of us know Dermot O'Neill, the professional person. There is, however, a Dermot O'Neill, the personal person, who has given so much back to the community. Which of your activities, outside of the profession, are you most proud of?
The activities that I'm most proud of, really the educational piece of it. I've been an adjunct at Villanova University in accounting from 72 to 82. I've been a discussion leader for the American Institute of CPAs and their staff training programs from 72 to 82. I've given lots of lectures, and I'm thrilled every time a student comes up to me and says, "You really changed my life. You really showed me something that I didn't know before." That's wonderful. Education has always seemed to be in my life. I know one of the proudest moment, I think, was when in the mid-70s, my kids' school was up for closure in consolidation with another school. And at the time, I was president of the Home and School Association. And it was very traumatic. The school had been around since 1915, and they were going to merge it, the Archdiocese was going to merge it into a new school. And it was just all sorts of trauma with the people. And the Archdiocese asked me to basically lead the way in how they should handle this situation. And of course, the best way to handle it was transparency. Folks, here's what's happening. We're willing to listen to your ideas. Let's talk about it. Had many meetings. We finally said that yes, consolidation was the best thing for everybody, and then I continued on as president of the Consolidated Group for another couple of years. That school today is a very, very successful, a very, very wonderful school. Since that time, it has consolidated 3 other schools, and it's just now a magnificent school. I had the opportunity to work in the 80s. I had a client who was a recovering alcoholic, and he was successfully recreating his business. And he asked me if I would mind if he referred other alcoholics and recovering people to me who were trying to restart their businesses, that their businesses had failed because of addiction and so forth, and they were trying to restart. And I did. I mean, it was a wonderful experience. I helped a few people, maybe 3 or 4, I don't know the exact number, come from really nothing up to where they've got thriving, successful businesses. One guy, for example, was he was an accountant that did contract work for municipalities and so forth. He rolled his car. He went into rehab for 30 days, and he was referred to me, and we got together, and he started a new business that was very successful. It was so successful that he ultimately lost $2 million in the real estate crisis. Another fellow was an insurance agent. He lost his agency. He had stuck his escrow accounts for $50,000 to buy drugs. It was taken over by the state. It was sold by the state. He successfully restarted his business, and last time I saw him, he was making in excess of $500,000 a year. You know, those are really happy times. Those are guys I haven't seen them in 10 years, but I know I could call them, and we'd be together. So there's a lot of really helping experiences. I call it helping. I mean, anytime somebody needs something, I'll do what I can to help, and that's really, really the best parts is when you get the feedback, and when you help somebody, you get back more than you give, and that's really what I've experienced in my life. The old saying that luck is a combination of preparation and opportunity. You know, if you're prepared and if you have the opportunity, you've got luck. And these guys, they were lucky in that they knew my friend John, and you know, they were successful, and they were devoted to rehabilitating themselves, to recovering, and so forth. And I was just there to support them, and you know what they needed from an accountant, and that was very rewarding. In relationship to NACVA, I've done a lot of work with NACVA, but again, with the helping, I've gotten back more than I put into that. The relationships with the people that I know, Michael Pachter, Michael Kaplan, Larry Maston, you know, ad nauseum. I know I'm going to leave a lot of people out, but those relationships are extremely valuable to me. For example, at Ryder this year, we did the business valuation program using the NACVA University program, and which is using the NACVA materials, teaching it on a graduate level, and then allowing those students, if they wanted, to take the CVA test and also to submit a peer-reviewed report. Laurie had done the beta testing at University of Denver, and she was extremely helpful in getting over the hump and transitioning from a typical textbook environment to the NACVA University program. So these relationships are just magnificent, and I treasure them, I cherish them.